Today we're relaxing by the lake with Kirk, a QHS member whose life journey is as refreshing and inspiring as a day spent by the water. But what currents guided him to where he is today? Let's take a peaceful stroll through his story and see what's been happening behind the scenes.
Hey everybody, this is Kirk Hadstall. I'm recording a prequel from my pals at QHS. And basically it's about who I am, where my ancestors come from, my life's journey, and what's brought me to this place 73 years later in my life. And so for my father's side of the family, they came from Norway up around the Arctic Circle. There's an island called the Hodsel Island. And then on my mother's side, it was primarily German. So I grew up in the 50s and the 60s. I lived in the Midwest and Springfield, Illinois, in the area, and it was quite a little experience, as I'm going to quickly unravel for you. There's some humor in this, and there's some challenges, but let's get on with it. So I'm the oldest of three boys, and it was a difficult childhood because there's several factors that combined that brought this all about. And they told me not to read this, but we'll find out as we go forward. So some of the factors that had difficulties in my young life were undiagnosed ADHD. Back then they called it minimal brain dysfunction. And then undiagnosed dyslexia and depression. And that was the things that later were brought to my attention through some testing that was done later in life. But my family difficulties include my father's rage and alcoholism. Dad was a very spirited fellow. And moving over to my mother, she was diagnosed with a borderline personality disorder. And good gracious, that's a tough nut, as one psychologist told me, to deal with. And so then moving that down to my next younger brother, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, which they were treating when he was in high school with electric shock therapy. And so the table's getting set here. Now, there was one other brother, youngest brother, and he was diagnosed and institutionalized with a borderline personality mental illness. And so growing up, there was never a dull moment. And there was never consistency in the house. And I feel very blessed to have escaped most of those, God gracious, those difficult diagnoses that the rest of the family had. And so one of the questions they asked me to address was, do I have a challenging childhood? And I'm just going to go, well, yes, I did. It was quite chaotic. And they asked, well, were you, a shy person or whatever? And so I chose, for my style, to be shy and introverted. I'd sit in the back of the class because I learned early on to speak up in the environment I was raised, that there was significant negative energy brought to bear on me. There was corporal punishment where there was spankings and soap in the mouth, and just never quite knew where it was coming. So the shyness seemed to suit me very well. And so that's, just thinking about the childhood. There were other times during the childhood that were exceptionally fun because of the insanity that I was around. They would be insanely fun at times, but anyway, it was very chaotic. And so about age 50, personally went in and had a diagnosis, and that's when I was diagnosed with the attention deficit and dyslexia. And my whole life turned around when I found out that there was actually a reason that I was sitting in this class and the people next to me were getting A's and I was struggling to maintain any kind of grade point. With the dyslexia and the different challenges, I was like, thank goodness there's some reason. So one of the things I was blessed with was tenacity and a curiosity. When I found out that there was a name for this, the attention deficit aspect. I dove into it. During my young adulthood, after this diagnosis, what have you, I actually became what I consider very successful. I was a goer. I had businesses. Well, the emotional part of it, unfortunately, there was 3 marriages. Unfortunately, that each of those marriages, my ex-wives and I still stay in touch, and we're still friendly. They all had their challenges. I had mine, and for many years we suited each other's temperament and personality, but it was in the long run not to be. And so I had 2 children with the first marriage, and on the second marriage I had a son. And as far as prior to all that education, I worked part-time in an insurance company, running computers at night and going to the local junior college during the day hours, pursuing a background in programming. And so I did pretty good in that area, but the running the equipment and doing the computer stuff was fun, but the schooling was still difficult to be in classroom. There was no medication or counseling or anything at that point in my life. It was a little bit of a challenge. There was I developed a relationship with alcohol. That didn't help. At this point in my life, looking back, we can see the downside of all that. But I did own several businesses. I was very successful in Raleigh, North Carolina, as a building material sales rep. I made friends easy. I also was a heavy equipment operator for 10 years up around the St. Louis area. I was a home builder. I became an electrical contractor. I did HUD housing inspections for 17 years. I was the vice president of the Maryland Association of Home Inspectors. Now, this is ADHD inspired, fueled, get her done kind of attitude. I was a local coordinator and speaker for the International Organization of Children and Adults with Attention Deficit out of Washington, D.C. I love that. I love that so much. And so one of the questions they asked was, why did I join QHS? And I wrote down, to improve myself and ultimately lift up my fellow man. I believe for some reason, it's just know that I'm here to encourage other people. I was even asked once to speak at Loyola University at an attention deficit workshop. And when I was finished, there was a panel. I was one of, or 6 of us, I was one of the panelists. The others were doctors. The person that signed me up said, I had no idea what you were going to talk about. I really didn't know that it was going to be inspirational. And my son was in the audience, and he says, Dad, you broke them up. They were all laughing and clapping. I know in every cell in my body, I'm an encourager. It's amazing. And so I've experienced the different things in my formative years, as I talked about, the different traumas. And they asked some of the questions they asked about the physical and mental, emotional challenges for you today. Well, just physically wearing down a little bit because of age 73. I don't spring out of bed, but I do get out of bed every day, And so it slowed me down a little bit. And I have allergies, sleep apnea. I had some cardiovascular issues, emotional issues. I get triggered on some of the things that, are buried deep in me in childhood that get triggered. I have some anxiety, dysthymia, which they diagnosed me with. This is a form of depression. It's a low grade, persistent blue feeling. So that that creeps in on me sometimes, but it always goes away. And so codependency and still the ADHD has some grip on me. And so Sid asked me if I'm committed to service for other people. And I go, every cell in my body is committed to encouraging other people. So I guarantee you, if we had a conversation, there would be something that would tweak inside of me. I feel the Holy Spirit is my close companion these days. And for some reason, I make friends easy and would love to encourage folks. So some way I'm going to promote that into a larger venue than what I currently am. And I'm interested in being a future leader. And they asked about what my future looks like, and I'm going to definitely be someone that is involved with instilling happiness in others. And there are some pictures they wanted us to upload on as part of this project, and one of them speaks to me is look at this. Is this little picture of me? I'm trying to find how to put it in the camera. If I hold it closer, does it get better? I don't know. But anyway, I've got a mustache, a little doggy, and we're having some fun at a chili cook-off where I ended up meeting and making a lot of friends. So, no question, my future is bright and shining. And I want to thank you all for listening. And stay tuned, because they say we're going to do another one of these as time marches forward and more of the QHS beauty and their innovations are applied, and I participate in those things. So God bless you all. Stay strong. There's always a bright light. Just look around the corner. You'll see it. It'll shine on you. Thank you.
Join us on the Prequel, where every story matters and every voice is heard. Because here at QHS, we're all about healing, learning, and growing together.